Hold on, I'm admitting a few more people. All right, and if you can turn your videos off if you're not part of sort of the guest panel, that would be good. It'll probably save a little bit on bandwidth. So anyway, we're going to talk about the book for the next hour or so, and with this friendly panel that I assembled, and I'll just go around and introduce them, and they can talk about who they are and what they do. So let's just start here with Stephen Vitale.
Hi, everybody. Steve Vitale, president of a company called Midwest Industrial Supply in Canton, Ohio, where the Football Hall of Fame is. I'm second generation. My father started the business in '75. I joined it in 2000, and I've been president for 12 or 13 years. But really, my father and I made the official transition about 2 years ago, where he's now stepping back, going through that father-son, second generation transition. And what I find, and what I've kind of started dubbing a term, which is I call legacy debt. When you hear about generational changes of a business, you hear a lot about is the new generation capable and able, interested, passionate about taking over the business. And what's interesting is I've never really concerned myself with those issues for me personally. But what I have found, and I like to talk about, is what I call legacy debt. So there's a lot of good assets I'm getting. I'm getting great products, great people, great customers. The legacy debt is I'm getting a lot of what got the business to this point is a bit of a nightmare of getting the business to where I want to take it. And so that legacy debt is no consistent, really solid systems, a lack of processes. And so what happened for me, I think, Nick, it was 2 years ago, I found this book and I read it in the Lean CFO-1st Edition. And I had everybody in the top 2 levels of our organization read it, and I created a book club. And I said, I keep joking with Nick, it's not the Lean CFO, it's the Lean management team. For me, it was the one. I've read every Lean book that you can read. And it was the one book that actually took the Lean core concepts and related it to business management and decision making. And it just blew my, just truly blew the doors off our leadership team. And we constantly refer to it all the time. And I'll be able to tell you a little bit about how we're using it and the things that we've learned. And I have implemented the box score in 50% of my business, which is a difficult service business all over the United States with trucks and guys and complicated DOT rules and capacity challenges and all that. And the box score in that side of the business has really driven unbelievable learnings in the process that we had to go to get to the box score. So I can talk about that and some other things. And we currently actively work with Nick, working through our Lean journey. And I would say after about 12 to 15 months of fumbling around, we're really getting and starting to get traction on all the things that we're trying to do to really allow our company. We're trying to double every 5 years. And the next doubling is a lot more complicated than the last doubling. And it has a lot to do with the legacy debt issue. So good. That is Midwest and myself.
All right. Michael Sanaki.
Hey, everybody. My name is Mike Sanaki. I work for Productivity Press as a publisher. I've been working with Productivity Press, we'll just say since the 20th century. And I feel one thing I really can't, I think, express the importance of this book in particular. I'm so happy to see it come to a second edition. something that was really important, I need to put a little bit of history here. I first was exposed to lean accounting through Brian Maskell, who's a colleague of Nick Katko's. And Brian, when Productivity Press years ago had a Publix division tied to its publishing business, we used to put on a number of conferences, and Brian would always do presentations on lean accounting. And what was interesting at that time, I'm talking, 20, 22 years ago at this point, what was so interesting about it is that there would never be accountants there initially. It would always be folks from the shop floor or in production gathering information to bring back to their organizations, because they've either initiated some type of lean process, but they've hit a brick wall because the company wasn't measuring it correctly. They were getting great results, but then it wasn't being measured correctly. So Brian Maskell published a book called Practical Lean Accounting, which basically went over the methodology on how to measure and how to adjust your company, especially if you've transformed the production floor and your processes, your manufacturing processes. What's great about Nick's book is that now he takes it to the leadership role of the person actually in a CFO role, and what they should be doing within a lean with a company that's embracing a transformative lean initiative. And I think that's really important, because for so many years it was what was happening on the production floor, and then really the support services just weren't there for the full transformative effects of a lean initiative. So I think with Nick's book, giving the CFO the role on what they should actually be doing in a lean initiative is incredibly important, because I know years ago there were so many companies, the questions that I used to see where they would talk about the worth of their companies being based on, say, well, we have a bunch of warehouses with inventory, and that's what we're considering worth. That's what we're considering value in our company. And so I think just from going from the methodology to Nick's book, talking about what the role of someone in a leadership role plays, I think it's been crucial. I think it's been crucial for just the continuation of the lean initiatives, successful lean initiatives, transformative lean initiatives, real lean initiatives.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Sure.
Judd Barr.
Thanks, Nick. My name's Judd Barr. I'm the CEO of a company called JTB Custom. We are at the core a software company, building technology that enables our customers to offer, scale, and expand mass customization, personalization, decoration, and small batch manufacturing programs. So think like TaylorMade Golf, being able to go on their website and configure a custom putter, put your company logo on a ball, stitch your name on a hat. That's our software that drives the experience, but it's also connected into the company's ERP and financial systems, as well as routing the orders to the factory floor itself. We are a early stage company. We've got about 35 customers on the platform. We're on the double path, so a little faster than the traditional manufacturer, but scaling quickly. And I have been working in this space for 25 years now. Mass customization has always been the next big thing, but it's taken about 30 years to get there. But I'm a self-taught lean practitioner, and coming at it from the factory floor, where I had my own factory in Oakland, California, where I was a supplier to Nike, Reebok, Timberland, and other big brands doing sewn goods in a high wage area. And we use lean as the way to deliver single piece custom products and survive and thrive in that environment. Fast forward to where JTB Custom became, we really felt the need for software. And so we've been working on this for a long time. I got connected to Nick when, I've read about every lean book out there as well, tried everything out there on the floor, but I was continually challenged with how to explain this to a financial person. How in the world could making one piece of something in a high mix, high variety environment ever be profitable? And I couldn't do it. I just said, you got to trust me. And that doesn't go very far. And we would have great success on the factory floor of our customers. We'd have great success in wowing their customers with the ability to get custom products really fast. But when it lands in a traditional financial system, it does not look so hot. And so I was looking for a way to communicate that. And I too found Brian Mastel's book and had read that and had put it onto the shelf. And then some years later dusted it off and got linked to Nick. Said, Nick, I got this problem. How do I explain this to my customers? And I guess while we're at it too, we should also practice the same thing. And how can I implement this in our company and as a software company? We also own a decorating facility in Chicago, which has been sort of our lab and proof of concept that we bring customers in to show them how to do high mix, low volume production and account for all that. So we're practicing what we preach as well. And Nick has been our guidepost on us. He and Karen actually make a formidable duo. But on top of that, we're now in the process of bringing out our next version of our application. It's called Silhouette. It provides our customer with basically an end-to-end solution, product configurator on the front, order management system on the back, integrations on the side. But now what we're being asked and what we're going to be providing to our customers is Silhouette will actually serve as the hub for all things custom and small batch. So that interfaces that sits between basically a traditional mass production ERP production system, warehouse management system, e-commerce platform, and all the other associated things. So Nick is actually down in the weeds with me right now as we work to implement this for the first time at some customers where we are basically extricating them from their traditional accounting systems, and our software is taking over driving that, so to where we can handle the complexity of millions of combinations and permutations of a product, cost that on the fly in a batch size of one, and get that into a traditional accounting system. So Nick has been massively helpful on this journey, and I too picked up the book, and it was just like, ding, 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 this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I needed. And Nick has been really helpful in helping us, communicate and translate that to our customers.
All right, thanks a lot, Judd. Tony Durio.
Well, that's an eloquent panel, Nick. So I'm not sure I can keep up with them.
You will be able to. I don't doubt that.
Tony Durio. I'm a founder CEO. Stephen, I'm down in Columbus. I'd like to buy you lunch or have a drink after work and talk to you about legacy debt, since I've got two children I'm a founder and I have two sons in the business. That'd be a fascinating conversation.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
We manufacture plastic films, and we manufacture and we're a distributor. So we are a bag house. We make a lot of plastic bags, and we make films that go on what I call the lower end of automation. So these are packaging things and automated equipment that are moving at slower speeds. It might be 30 widgets a minute or something like that, as opposed to something that's moving along at 500. Or if we're doing shrink bundling type applications, that you'll see things just wrapped around. It could be firewood, it could be beans, whatever it might be. That's our core business in manufacturing, what we're really growing. But we also, 40 to 50% of what we do, we also source. So we get involved with a lot more technical films. We would be selling things in a manufacturer, in some cases distributors, but they would end up being lidding stocks that you would find in something you'd find in your grocer. Something, it'd be yogurt, the lid coming off of yogurt. It could be and my customer is going to have a 5 or 8 pound package that's going into Cisco or US Foods that gets distributed in a restaurant, as opposed to something that you're going to go off and look for a single serving in the grocery store, Kroger, something like that. But that's the focus of our business. And I will tell you a little bit through Nick and Lean is I came from the other side. I'm from the sales side, and I used to be the person that wanted to sell everything and not say no to anything. And now we say no to just about everything, and we only focus in a couple of channels, and lo and behold, we're growing at a much more rapid clip. But where we really found where I came to Nick the back way. I started out wanting to form a board to help me grow. That led me into reading books on, Lean Six Sigma, Lean in general, and I ended up putting a master black belt from GE, who I was client one. I put him into business. He's now a consultant, but he helped me. And then from that, I ended up going through a couple of variations of plant managers at my plant in my industry. And then what I settled on that got us growing is I have a master black belt that came from Kodak for 35 years. It was in their films division, worldwide quality leader. And since he's come in, he's changed the culture, and we've instilled processes. Again, we're moving and growing and adding stuff. Well, I think the easiest way I can put it is I'm a true owner. I'm a 100%er. It's my money, and financial statements and all look great. But what I care about is, where's the cash? What am I keeping? What is actually hitting? And cost absorption financial sheets, they just don't correlate. They just don't work. So like yourselves, I started reading different books. I think I read one on, it was called Total Variable Accounting. And then that led to the Lean CFO. And after reading the Lean CFO, Nick was in my office probably within a week or two, and I've been working with him since. But I think one of the keys to understand, we're talking about taking the shop floor or whatever you would call it, and everybody's used to Lean there and working on the essentials, and then beginning to work on what you call the non-value added essentials, or non-value added, necessary type of stuff that you've got to do. But it stops, and that frustrated me. So when Nick came in and reading the book, it began tying the back end to the front end. And one thing that Nick has a gift of doing is Nick can explain it and make it simple. Many of the Lean books are not simple. They don't make sense. So I'm starting to tie something back that I can explain to somebody in my office. It could be an AP person, or somebody I can actually make sense why we're doing something down at the floor level. That's a gift. Most people and most books and people and Lean consultants, they're so complex and they confuse people. So anyways, in putting that together, we're beginning to look at the front end and the back end, and looking at the waste that's in the front end. There's actually more waste in the front end. And we're very excited because what I look at it from my standpoint is, in my field, nobody's doing front and back, and I think we'll build into a true competitive advantage that we can utilize out in the field. Because whether it be where we're looking at how do we maximize an investment organically in something we own, or we want to overlay and add somebody on and go buy somebody, we're using those tools to help us monitor and be able to very quickly look through what they're doing to assess where we can pull value out of the business.
Cool. Great, Tony. And last but not least, our master of ceremonies, Karen Ross. So I'm going to turn everything over to you, Karen.
Okay, Nick, thank you so much. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for joining from wherever you are in the world, and panelists for sharing your stories. I'm Karen Ross, and I am a Lean coach, consultant, and actually the author of 6 books. So one of the things that I really like to do is write, and I also really enjoy reading Lean books, not just from the point of view of understanding, but really from the point of view of, reading a book. And if you look around, you can see that I am in a very colorful environment. I come to the Lean world from the world of art. So I have a master's degree in sculpture. And when I started reading Lean books, actually one of my absolutely very favorites was the Lean CFO. And Tony, is really from your point of view that you've just expressed, because it was a fabulous read and absolutely understandable for anybody from any background. So I am super excited that we have a second edition. And before I go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to ask folks on the panel some questions and Nick some questions. But before we do that, what I would like you to do, if you have a glass, I have a cup of tea, but if you have a glass of anything, pop can, please raise your glass, and a toast to Nick Katko on the publication of the second edition of the Lean CFO. Absolutely a fabulous accomplishment, with many other accomplishments across the years. So we are super proud and excited. So Nick, I'm going to start off by asking you a question. It's actually going to be kind of two in one. Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, why a second edition of the Lean CFO now, and then Practicing Lean Accounting, your latest book? How are the two of them connected?
All right. So while Mike DeLuca and I were writing Practicing Lean Accounting, I often look back at the Lean CFO. And what I started to realize is that sort of the way I approach explaining it, teaching it, training it, sort of had evolved. And the more I looked at the first edition, I guess I started to think, well, I need to make more connections, not from the lean management accounting side, also with the lean practices. Now, I was explaining it. That's the way I was, working with companies, but it wasn't in the book. And then I also wanted to make the second edition more easy to read if you were not in manufacturing. So I just didn't want to focus on manufacturing, which I probably had a tendency to do in the first edition. And then also with practicing lean accounting, we laid that out sort of like, here's the transformation process, if you wanted to improve accounting. And so I said, I like that approach. And so that was the other piece, was to sort of lay out the book differently so it follows the transformation process. And let me share a screen real fast. Hold on. And so the thing to do is to look at these as like companion books. All right. On the left, you have Practicing Lean Accounting, which came out in 2021. And it sort of explains the lean strategy for accounting. It spends a lot of time on improving accounting processes. And we also talk about lean financial management. Now, there are overlaps in both of the books. And then the Lean CFO is more of the lean strategy for the business and the numbers of the lean management accounting system and how to integrate lean management accounting into lean accounting. That's how I got to be where I wanted to be. I actually started off thinking, well, I'm going to add a few chapters here and there. And then I just decided, why not just make it pretty new?
I love that. And Michael, I know you talked a little bit about, just the importance from the historical perspective of publishing about lean accounting. A second edition is, really different than just publishing a book from the start. Can you tell us why it was super important for you to publish a second edition of this book?
Well, I think what had happened originally, like with a lot of books that I publish in specific areas that are ancillary to, say, the production floor of lean initiatives. They're constantly evolving, and I think Nick was at the forefront, but I think a lot has happened in, I'd have to check the date, I think the 10 or 12 years since he wrote the first edition. So much has changed since that time. And I think one of the biggest changes from that time has been almost the incorporation of like a cultural aspect as part of being important to the transformation, as opposed to when I first got into this business, it was all about this tool for this tool for this person, this tool for this area. So I think it's important where, again, none of these experiences and none of these books, I think, are set in stone. I think they're constantly evolving, because I think, and again, I can't speak for both of you as consultants. I can only speak from the outside. I'm assuming your learning is just as much as the audience is as you're practicing. So there's so much more to talk about as the years go on. So I just felt it was time, just because I felt like that when I had talked to Nick about it, I just felt like that role, there has to be some evolution there. It was early on, because I just think even about, like I said when I was speaking before, about how practical lean accounting was interpreted initially with lean initiatives, and now the role that it plays, 20 something years later.
I love that, Michael, because it really is true. And for us, and I tell Nick all the time about this, that, he's such a great role model of saying, well, my thinking changed about this, because that's the model that we should be giving people, because we want them to learn that we're learning and growing and our thinking changes. So we know certain things 10 to 12 years later, we hope we as well have learned and can share those learnings. So since we're talking about the second edition, I'm going to throw a question out to our fabulous panelists, Stephen and Judd and Tony, and that is, if you could share something that you learned from the second edition of the Lean CFO, something important that you would like to share with the rest of the folks on this call, because we want them to get super excited about reading the book as well and learning from your learning.
I think for me, I'll jump in here.
Sure.
On both of them, it was the logical nature. I like the word absolutely understandable, connect the dots. What I liked about it is I've got my whole leadership team again reading the second edition, so they're getting a second wave of the thinking. I still look at the power in the lean performance measures, measuring capacity, value stream income statements, connecting the dots of how things actually work and how cash is generated. And I'm going to use an example. So 50% of our business, so we're in the chemical business, but we service clients. So we're in the dust control and stabilization business. So my clients are big steel mills, big mines, quarries, oil and gas. And I've got service trucks and satellites all over the United States. And we're kind of the inverted version of a McDonald's. So instead of having a McDonald's and having everybody come to me, I set up a satellite and I have to go out and get clients and make sure that my guy and my truck and the whole supply chain all works for profitability. And so I was working on a concept that I called SOOM, Strategic Order and Opportunity Management. And it kind of goes to what Tony was saying. We were just bringing on business because we had a guy in a truck and there was no semblance of profitability thinking. It was my father is like Tony. He's an entrepreneur, founder, and he is a master salesman. And he felt that you just sell and you grow and you grow. And what I found, that had little to do with actual driving profit down to the bottom line, as we all know. And so I was creating this concept and I was working on it. And then I read the book. When I read the first book, and then as I've gone through the second edition, and Nick's coming to town next week. And we have a whole session on applying the P&L views into the business so that I get away from the old views. And that's what we're going to do next week. And I've got my CFO on board. That took a little bit of work, but ultimately that box score and all those P&L views are what we're going to replace. I talked to Nick a little bit. We used our general ledger to analyze the business. So we've got too many departments, too many codes. Like there's like 720 expense locations you can put things. And we have a way of dropping that down to about 120. And then it's going to be implementing all of these tools from the book into the business. That's going to be how we analyze it. So I'm going to get rid of all these bad behaviors, all these bad ways of thinking, and I'm going to implement just this methodology, and nobody's going to have a choice because it'll be the only information they're given. And so I'll share my screen real quick. And I'm not able to, but I don't know, Nick, if that's too much. You don't have to.
Hold on one second.
The point was I had all this information and data, and I started getting metrics, but it was so overwhelming. It's like analysis paralysis. When I got to the very end, I understood the profitability of every satellite, but I started stack ranking the clients, but it wasn't helping my decision-making process. And I could not communicate to the sales organization what they were doing wrong. And then I looked at the box score with the 3 levels, and all of a sudden I put this into that format, and I started showing, look at the capacity. And then I started rating capacity versus profitability. And so we have low profit and high capacity. And I'm like, that's a bad customer. High profit, low capacity, that's a good customer. And I made these 4 or 5 metrics, and it all stemmed from the box score. And then I'm taking that up one more level into, and I don't have the chapters, right in front of me, but we're going to start implementing the lean income statement. And really, like, I don't care about, I graduated with an accounting degree. I get GAAP, but that has nothing to do with running the business. That's only for my accountant and, the bank. And I love the fact that the bank actually lives on GAAP because I think it's kind of humorous. But the reality is the box score, all of these views, it's taken some time, and I've got what we'll call, actually Nick dubbed it, I have a very traditional cost accountant, absorption cost CFO. And we're turning the ship on him to the point where it was his idea. He presented it to me about changing the GL, all the structure so that we could do this. And Nick just happened to be in next week. So that's what we're going to spend our time doing. But the power of taking, once you get the information, organizing it so that you can tell good capacity, good customers, bad customers, come up with metrics that are simple to calculate. When you show it to somebody, a 1-page box score of my satellite business, when you look at it, you can see where the problems are immediately. And I can tell people what we're going to do to change it. And so for us, like my goal is to double our profitability this year. And 1/2 of that is coming from this initiative for that satellite business using the box score and these methodologies. So for me, it's just been unbelievable.
Great.
I'll
Thank
chime in just for a second. So ours is a little more basic, right? So we're basically at Lean Accounting 101. So as a software company, we were dedicated bootstrappers until we got our first investor. So it really didn't matter. We were a cash business. How much is in the checking account? Great. We can make our bills. Okay, let's collect some. No big deal. Then we got introduced to GAAP as we went out to raise money, and we have sort of a fraught relationship with GAAP. I'm still trying to I'm not a financial guy, and trying to figure it out. But as we went in through the fundraising process, every outside investor would say, you're a SaaS company, right? What's all these services? What are you guys doing with this? Why in the heck would you want to have manufacturing in Chicago, right? We're not going to invest in that until you get rid of all the hair around the software. And everybody thinks, mistakenly, that SaaS is infinitely profitable, and that's actually really a myth. In that you've got massive headcount and overhead to support that SaaS application as well. So we basically were able to create, we went straight to the value stream income statement to separate our business into the three basic streams. And we're now able to easily show the interplay between the three different revenue streams that we have and the value that they create for our customers as well. And just took a lot of the, it's like, so no longer are we getting pressured by investors to get rid of manufacturing or cut down on professional services when they see how they each contribute to the business and are really important to the overall story.
Thank you so much, Jed. And I love that we can see that juxtaposition, right? Tony, would you like to add something from your company's perspective?
I think from the book perspective, I found myself reading the second one, and it makes more sense to me. That it was a lot of aha moments. Oh yeah, that's why we're doing that. Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, I called him and said, "What are box scores? Why are we doing box scores?" But one of the things, and I'm sure you did it in the first one, but it really spelled it out well, was just value added versus non-value added time. Those three things make it very easy to explain to everybody. And the reason everybody is important is the sheer waste in the front end. An example would be, one of the things Nick did for us, he was doing some value stream mapping of my customer service. And we found one of our employees, I can't remember what Carla was doing, that freight thing. I can't remember how many hours a week she spent on it. And Nick said, "Why do we do this?" And we went, "We stopped doing that 4 years ago." Is it? Well, apparently we had not, but that's the kind of stuff that happens and that doesn't seem like it's finance, but it's waste. It's capacity that begins to permeate across, and those simple things,
Oh, he froze up. Ooh, sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
the production person who's also a black belt is very helpful, because sometimes the production side can be a little difficult too. So between the two of them, we got agreements on how we were measuring. And one of the things Nick did is we got to look, we need a Bible, and that's going to be the ERP system. And if we've got a problem, we'll fix the ERP system. We're not going to calculate other stuff. And from that, that's kind of where it started. And then what we've been able to do is we're probably down to, thinking through, I don't think we measure maybe 8, 9. We have 8 or 9 metrics that absolutely move the business. Each one of them that we focus on, it's not, it could be a specific orders entered and how we're driving some pounds going into a plant, or in our sourcing side what we're doing, but they're very specific. And when we focus on these, we move the needle one way or the other. And we can adjust very quickly. If we've got a problem, we go over them weekly and we can turn. And I think going back to the book, it lends itself there. And I think this round of the book is a little easier to read. It makes more sense to me because we're practicing, so we're able to implement a little bit better. But in going there, what I like about it is now everybody's on the same page. People are beginning to understand some of the most basic things we do are waste, not just everybody thinks about the manufacturing line and how can we set up faster and what's our defect rate and those kind of calculations and watching movement. But when we look at a lot of the other places in the business, I think it's been very helpful for how we move the needle. So we implemented a profit sharing plan, and I have a profit sharing plan for what I call the backbone of the business. So sales and upper management are on their own plans. And basically I tell everybody else that we count on to make the business happen, that's their money. And so now they're all involved with understanding how to utilize capacity and get rid of wasted capacity. And I wouldn't have known that without Nick or the book. One thing I will say about the accounting world is Nick's got a friend who runs the Operational Center of Excellence at Ohio State. It's a master's program. And I've talked to David, and I asked David, I was trying to recruit another person for our accounting department in lean accounting, and he started laughing. I go, have you got somebody that I could get in here, intern? You got to pay a recommend. He started laughing. He said, finance hasn't come along yet. So I thought that was interesting. We're going to have to make an impact somewhere.
Excellent. Good.
Yes. So I was going to ask each of you if Stephen, I was super interested by you saying that you implemented a book club for your management team, and I was wondering if all of you, starting with Stephen, would like to share about how you think that other companies could best use this book and with your team and put it into practice. Oh, look at that. So will you tell us a little bit about your book club, Stephen, and any other suggestions you have of how to use the book with your team?
I think the book club strategy is the first way to have a non-threatening way to engage a large group of people about, let's say, a new idea or new concepts. So it's not off-putting. So you simply say, hey, there's something I'm exploring. I want you guys to learn about it. And I want us to read this book, and then we're going to talk about it. So what we did is we read the book, and we scheduled an hour and a half every Friday, like afternoon from 1 to 3:30, when it's kind of like a down kind of, it's kind of a time when people don't necessarily want to do really hard work. They kind of talking about something, it's relaxing. So what I found was that got people, I mean, the engagement was unbelievable. And again, this book is so absolutely understandable that people went off and they started trying to like apply these concepts just so they could come back and say, what is Tony was saying, like, what would I consider in this scenario non-value add but required? And how would I even measure capacity? It got everybody going. And to me, that kind of was my reinstituting lean as a strategy into my business started with this book in a book club. And I did it with the 3 top layers, just so that everybody could really discuss it. And what was great was nobody had any answers. Nobody was telling anybody we're going to do anything. We were just learning. So it was non-threatening. And I can tell you, it was extremely successful. It had a lot to do the strategy of the book club, but also the book, because I've done it in the past with the wrong book and it didn't work as well. It went nowhere. People glommed onto this specifically. This specific book is done in a way that is so common sense, and it's so relatable from financial to operational that it's kind of like non-debatable. You actually grab the concepts, and then all of a sudden, my team, there's a young man who runs our plant who's very, very intelligent. And the other things, you don't know where people are, if they've ever heard of lean or not heard of lean. He'd never heard of lean ever. He was a chemist. And he was one of the guys who came on the strongest and was like, this just makes so much sense. I had no idea this thinking existed. And he kind of was one of our major, absolute major drivers of this thinking beyond just the book club. So it was fabulous.
Thank you. I use book clubs very successfully as well, and I think it's fun for people, and it brings people together in their learning all of one thing.
Karen, can I make a comment here? I don't know if I'm allowed.
Yes, you may. I was going to call on you. I was actually going to call on you.
So I found Nick a few years ago, and I'm with KPI Fire. We're a software company. We work a lot with companies with continuous improvement programs or any sort of business improvement programs. And really what we're trying to do is help them run the programs, but really to help them quantify the impact of those programs. So I got really intrigued with Nick's line of thinking and how to quantify that to the point where I reach out to Nick periodically and buy stacks of books and I put our little sticker on them and then I send them out to our clients so that they will start following that line of thinking as well in terms of how they can, better work with us. So it's a lot like a book club, but we're inviting our actual customers into it, not just our employees. So I'm a huge fan of Nick's work. Thanks, Nick.
You're welcome. Thank you. How about Tony? What was the question again, Karen? I forgot.
The question is about how to use the book and get this going in your company. Stephen have a book club. I was wondering, Tony, if you had any other suggestions for how people could use the book in their company.
I haven't been as nice as Stephen. He's got a book club. I gave it to my controller. My son's reading it. I've given it to a couple of others, but we're not a democracy. So I hired Nick and I said, this is the way we're going. And the conversation was over. I mean, I could play a song. Oh, no, this makes perfect sense.
You're a benevolent dictator, Tony. Okay. You're a nice guy.
Well, I don't mean it that way. What I will say though, is I didn't get any pushback. The accounting department didn't give me, I didn't get any pushback. And when Nick started working with folks, I think the real key part of the book club, but to help it be successful, is when we started working with people and explaining to them why we were doing things, and they saw that it had positive impact on their work day, it wasn't hard to get them to buy in. We're doing this for this reason, and we could show them because that's a waste of your time. We're doing this for this reason because this will help you do this. We're doing this for this reason because, once again, why are we doing that? We don't need to be doing that. Why are we doing that? Why don't we need to be doing that? Or it could be pushing quality up the line saying, why are we doing these three things? Well, our problem's over here, but the team could begin to understand. So I think in many cases, we've got certain people reading the book, and in certain cases, you're teaching them the book, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you. Judd, do you have anything you'd like to weigh in on this conversation?
No, I think it's, we passed the book out to everybody. Everybody's taken a dip into it, including our investors. The minute I showed them what we were doing, he was on Amazon ordering and getting that. And so he's following along with this as well. But this is actually just reiterating to me that we need to get back into our club mentality. We read and talked and we started implementing, but now we need to keep working to make it stick.
Yeah, Karen, I just want to talk about Jared. He posted something in the chat about how does lean accounting relate to Eli Goldrat's view on finance in the book The Goal, where he talks about the main three numbers of throughput, inventory, and operating expense. And there's similarities between lean management accounting and how Goldrat explains it. One is to eliminate a lot of the complexity that financial accounting can bring when you're trying to analyze operations internally and make connections to operational performance and financial performance. If you start with your externally reported financial statements, that's not the right starting point. You really have to develop internal reports that relate to how you operate. And that's really what lean management accounting does. And is really what the book is about, is what are the numbers that you need inside the lean business. So it's about the common connection, or the connection between the goal and the books like the Lean CFO, is that, make things simple so that the users, the non-financial operational people understand. And at one level, you almost have to make it as simple as like a personal finance and a personal checkbook. How much money is coming in? How much money is going out? I keep a little check register. I know how much money I have. And the more that you make make it that simple inside the business, I think the easier it is for people to understand how they can drive operating performance to drive financial performance. Hope that was good enough, Jared.
Thank you.
I love it. Thanks.
Thank you. And Jared, thanks for posting in the chat. Nick,
Yeah.
I actually have a question for you.
Uh-oh, surprise.
I know, surprise. I wanted to know what's actually your favorite part of the second edition and why?
My favorite part was the value stream management chapter, which is where I really sort of try to explain exactly how all these numbers integrate with basic lean practices like, strategy deployment, continuous improvement events, and daily lean management. And that was really one of the reasons what spurred me on to write a second edition, because during, I think in 2021, I started doing an online value stream management class where I explained all this, and I got people attending it and they liked it, and I thought, there should be a chapter in the book. And that's my favorite part. And I really, that's sort of the way I like to even approach talking about it and training about it, because the faster that operating people can make the connections with the numbers in terms of what they're doing, the easier it is.
I love that chapter too. So I'm glad that's the one you chose. We don't have so much time left, so I wanted to know if you could let people know how they can get their hands on the second edition.
Oh, yes, I can. Hold on one second.
If you don't have it already, you should be rushing right out.
So hold on. All right, so the book launch special. So 20% off the regular price, and that is at the Routledge website. That's Michael's company, and they have the book available for purchase. And you can get 20% off if you order at that website. Obviously, you can order it on Amazon if you have a choice there, but you can't get the discount. So that's how you can do it. And that 20% off code EFL01 is it's active right now. And if you do order a book, if you feel so inclined, when you get the book, post a picture of it on LinkedIn with you holding the book. And if you happen to order it on Amazon, please write a review if you get it, if you feel so inclined. And I just want to add, without embarrassing my wife too much, I just wanted to know if she wanted to say anything before the end. Hold on, you have to unmute.
I am. I know, honey.
Okay.
I hit the wrong button. First of all, hello to everybody. It's so good to put faces with names. I've heard your voices. Stephen, especially Stephen and Judd and Tony and Stephen, tell Bob hello.
I will.
I've not yet to meet him yet, but I have a confession to make, Nick. I don't want to embarrass you. I'm probably the only one on here that hasn't read the book. Now, I'm a CPA too, but I do tax returns. So I'm a totally, but Lean, Nick helped me when I went on my own. And I know I don't have much time. When I went out on my own and started my own tax practice, a tax practice must be lean in order to be productive and be successful. And Nick helped me leaned out my processes. When did we do that? 2021, 22?
Yeah.
So a tax practice will not thrive and will not be efficient without Lean, because it's the thing about picking the tax return up every time. Well, I'm not doing tax returns anymore, but I'm going to go read your book, honey. And it's so good to see everybody. And thank you so much for supporting him on this day. Thanks so much. This is a really, really big deal. Thank you so much.
Hold on.
And Karen, it's good to see you.
Hold on. Hold on. I'm dropping the,
Will you drop the link into the chat, Nick?
yeah, that's what I just did. The link's in the chat.
Look at you.
Hey, there's one good question from David Brunt. He's actually listening in on Friday evening from England. And David said, do companies that I work with separate their performance measurement system from their improvement management system and the financials for each? The short answer is no. And that's really what the purpose of a lean management accounting system is, to really integrate it into the improvement management system and understand the drivers of financial performance. And so it's really like one integrated system. And that's one of the things I try to explain in the book. So I hope that helps you, David. Anyway, anybody else want to add any closing comments?
Well, congratulations, Nick.
Congratulations, Nick. Awesome.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. And
I just want to add, Nick, it's time to start working on the 3rd edition.
I have an idea. I do have an idea. But I'm going to keep it quiet because it's just an idea right now. And if I commit to this, then when I walk upstairs, my wife is going to sort of say, no more books for a while.
I have to be quiet. I guess you can already figure out I'm not whining. I have to be quiet. I'm not a quiet person.
No, she's not.
All right.
All right.
Nick.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bravo.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow.
Not yet. No, you can come on. We're just
There.
Karen. Just Karen.
That's me.
Did you see? Scrolling the screen.
Yeah, but
Okay, now I got to read the book.
oh, so hold on. Oh, it's still recording.
Oh, crap.